Seven, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You'll never have the sacred stone.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
Welcome in to a Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. Live here from the UDL on this Monday morning, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Not the full crew this morning. Katie's out in Colorado. Lloyd is on a vacation here. Yes, much needed, much deserved for Lizzie as he is away with his family on a beach vacation. So just the fellas hanging out this morning inside the UDL. Noah is helping us and producing this morning as he stepped up. Nice work, Noah, getting us up and getting us live here on this Monday morning. And Big Jack is here as we'll talk to Emery Jones. Emery Jones is the latest commitment for LSU as he committed on Friday to the Tigers for this class of 2022. We'll talk to Jones, who is an interior offensive lineman out of Baton Rouge, out of Catholic High, coming up here at 7:30 this morning. Then Shea Dixon, who covers recruiting for Go 247, best in the business, will stop by at 8:15 this morning. We got your weekend heroes. We'll tell you all about it at 8 a.m. this morning, coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. So make sure, tune in, be interactive. We appreciate all of your interaction here, whether it's on YouTube, Facebook, JordyCulottaShow.com, which, by the way, is going to launch this week. The new Jordy Culotta Show is going to launch coming up at some point this week, and we are really looking forward to it from our friends over at Nevada's with Randall Knockman, his crew, and everybody over there getting us up and getting us live here for online, which we will be able to, you'll be able to minimize both the video and the audio from the website to allow you to work in the background, whether it's on your smart device or whether it's on your computer. So that is very much something that we are excited to offer over here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Going into the fall, as we firm up our fall schedule and what we're going to look like for football season, we'll be excited to announce some of the weekly guests that we will have and be talking to every week here, getting you set for the football weekend.
What are we at, 34 days?
Here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Yeah, 30, no, I think 30, 33.
Yeah, somewhere
yeah,
around
33.
There.
I think. Yeah, with our friends over at Matt Anderson, One Team, One Podcast, is kind of counting it down, and he had a
Jamal Adams, LSU, 33.
And he had the Skylar Green Matt Maul hookup, which was 34 yards out at the Georgia game back in 2003, which was a top 3 Tiger Stadium moment for me in person. If you were at that game, you know that's probably the best day game at LSU. So be interactive with us here. Make sure you like, share, comment. We appreciate that very much here on the Jordy Culotta Show, as a lot of that will get us up and get us moving and get us in front of more eyeballs. So we appreciate that. Everybody had a good weekend. What are you, house sitting over there?
Living at Katie's.
Yeah, professional house sitter. Well, you got the place for the week, huh?
Yeah, till Wednesday.
Heads up. Yeah. Heads up. What about you, Jack?
What was it? Friday night. You like this story? I got a late call from Abby Alonzo. I was supposed to work, and she's like, "Hey, PA kid with my job got COVID. Like, I need someone." I was like, "All right, you help me find my way here."
She's with the Rougarou, right?
The Rougarou, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he knows how to say it now.
I know how to say it now. I went up there, look at the script. I'm like, "Oh Jesus, what does this even say?" But so I was able to figure out the funny part of the game. It's like 15-3 they're losing. It's the bottom of the 8th. There's like heat lightning in the left. Like everyone wants to go home, and like I'm squinting at the scoreboard, and I think the game is over. But it just ended the bottom of the 8th. So I called the game, and like everyone's like, "Wait, the game's over?" And I looked.
People started leaving.
No, we have one more inning. And I was like, "Sorry, folks, by bad mistake trying to get us out. We still have one more inning."
Nothing says minor league baseball like the PA announcer telling you that the game's over with an inning left to play. Pretty chill weekend for us over here as little Jay. I mean, he's back in school a week from today, man. The summer is over.
Oh,
A week from today. Knocked out the last uniform shopping. Spent some time in a pool. Went swimming. It's been hot as hell down here in South Louisiana. But a lot of recruiting stuff to get to. Boys from the Boot, Weekend Heroes. We'll tell you all about it coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. A couple of things before we get moving here. As you know, all of our phone line guests are compliments of Metropolitan Health Group over at Metropolitan Health Group. Real doctors, real solutions with Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan and their crew over there. So we appreciate them. All of our coffee down here is presented by Majestic Coffee, Majestic Brews, DeliciousSips.com. The water is provided by True Blue Water. And we welcome aboard a new sponsor, Papa Earl's. Founded by our friend, good friend, Pop Norman, Mark Norman, back in 2018. This comes out of Thibodeau. He and Jesse LeBlanc of Donaldsonville were the winners of Amazon's Newcomer of the Year back in 2019. They pride themselves on having 30% less salt, sodium than any of the leading brands, and that is their spice right there on the centerpiece. This is their spice cup that we're drinking out of, which is a really cool, a cool cup that Pop was able to get us.
Tony Satcher for me.
No way, bro. Papa Earl's all the time. In fact, we fried some fish, some of the fish that we caught down at Port Fouchon last week, and topped it with some Papa Earl's, which was the kiss,
Chef's kiss
that it needed. It can be locally found. Papa Earl's spices can be locally found at Rouse's, Calandros, Mathern's, and High Neighbor here in the local area. So, welcome aboard to our good friend.
You know you're making money when you sell at Mathern's. It's like the most overpriced grocery store in the world.
Papa Earl's. Thank you to Pop for his support here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Looking forward to our chat with Shea Dixon as we'll talk about recruiting. If you have a recruiting question, get involved, get inside of the bunker, get to Facebook, make sure you chat, DM us, however you can get in touch with us, do that, and we will get your recruiting questions pushed over to Shea here at 8:15 this morning.
In the world of recruiting, I don't think we ever got your thoughts. The Ohio State quarterback, Quinn Ewers. What do you think? I mean, he probably go to Ohio State now.
We were talking a little bit about this on Friday about Ewers and the decision he makes, and Ewers and Walker Howard are widely considered to be two of the top two quarterbacks in this cycle. Ewers is out of Austin, Texas, and is committed to Ohio State, and of course Walker Howard right here out of Lafayette, committed to LSU. But Ewers had some opportunities with name, image, and likeness come across his parents and his desk for an opportunity here going into his senior season, and with the new legislation in Texas that obviously prohibits high school students. So if he accepts the name, image, and likeness deal, he would be deemed ineligible for his senior season of high school football. So he is contemplating taking all he needs is one English course to graduate, an online course that he can actually have finished before this week. I think I saw where he could finish it before August 3rd.
Well, we were talking about how amazing the summer school is. Just
it's unbelievable. I mean, it's unbelievable. But he could, at least technically, from a standpoint of the grades and graduation and being eligible, he could graduate and go up to Ohio State and enroll early and be on campus and accept
play
those name, image, and likeness deals. And Ohio State's quarterback spot right now is completely up for grabs. Like, they've got guys that have not even taken a snap. I mean, they just have those wide receivers. That's all they have. They got some guys that were highly recruited, but nobody who's taken a snap and proven. And when you talk about Quinn Ewers, the opportunity he has as a senior to win a state championship, to set some Texas State records,
means nothing. Means nothing
to
him.
you?
No, to him.
Yeah.
The chance to win another state title.
Well, I did see where that was something that he was contemplating. I mean, you think about senior season in for a lot of us out there. I mean, a lot of it is. I mean, that's kind of the apex of your athletic career. I mean, especially a lot of the people that are listening. And I mean, I know for me, I mean that was the end. I mean, that was from a competitive standpoint for things that matter. I mean, you chase that competition through rec leagues and ancient athletes and intramurals and stuff like that, but you're never able to completely fulfill that competitive spirit. Now, for a guy like yours,
where he knows it's
who's
not,
got
it's
an
not
he's got a chance to go on to go possibly start at Ohio State.
Right.
I mean, potentially he could start for Ohio State this upcoming season if he can get on campus in time, which academically he's all lined up to do.
It's amazing how they can make that work.
It is.
Kid has like a 1.0 GPA.
Well, I mean, it's just incredible how these high-end guys have, like set themselves up to do this type of stuff. I mean, where you can graduate early. Yeah, I mean, for a guy like yours, I mean, I was reading some of his scholastic plans. I mean, he's been taking summer school since his 8th grade year. You know what I mean? Like he's, but going into his, I mean, I think I read legally, when he went into his freshman year, he was actually a sophomore from a credit standpoint.
Because of the summer school classes?
Yeah, just because the things that he had tested out of and from what he had tested at summer school. So, I mean, we'll see. That decision should come pretty quick.
Yeah, and if it does come, do you think it kind of like sets off like a domino effect?
Yeah.
Like
I definitely do. I mean, I think we told. I don't know if I told the story here or if I told it on Jacques' podcast or YouTube special that he does over on WAFB's deal. But I mean, there was a sports agent that was thrown off of a high school campus here in Baton Rouge 2 weeks ago. I mean, asked to leave. Like, what are you doing here? And he was, he was trying to build a relationship with one of a big time recruit. And a lot of these agents now have opened up marketing agencies within their sports agency so they can get away with name, image, and likeness stuff. So these relationships aren't just starting on college campuses; they're starting on high school campuses. I mean, when you think about what the inroad is to get a guy like Quinn Ewers is going to make his decision on his representation in 3 to 5 years on the man or the woman, whoever it is, from a sports agent standpoint, that he trusts the most. And usually the one that you trust the most is the one that you've known the longest. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, people are going to try and start building these relationships at a much earlier time. Or, I say earlier, I mean, we've always heard of runners and agents hanging around college campuses and college locker rooms and facilities on college campuses. High school,
that just seems grimy.
But now that if you're going to start paying them in college, you're just moving. You're just moving up the relationship starting point that much further. So I mean,
I guess that's been done through the AAU circuit, though.
Sure, it has.
Just the sleeches out there.
Sure,
so
absolutely. I mean, AAU basketball is a great example of kind of what this has turned into. I mean, a lot of the leeches and roaches that hang out in gyms all throughout the year just trying to get a conversation with a handler or a potential prospect or player. I mean, this is you've seen this for countless summers and countless seasons in AAU basketball. But, I mean, this is going to start to affect high school sports at some point, whether it's the LHSAA or the National Federation of High School Athletics is going to have to either recognize, put, and implement some type of rule in place. I know that NIL is being governed by individual states, and they have the power to penalize and set the consequences for whatever may be deemed illegal in these negotiations. And like I said, in Texas, if Ewers is the way that the legislation is written right now, if he takes that deal as a high school senior, well, he's ineligible. He can't take a snap. And I want to say that the legislation states that he would be ineligible in college as well, like in Texas. Like if you take the deal in high school, it would rule you ineligible for not only the time that you have left in high school, but that you're suspending any type of.
He was at Texas at first, right? I think he was committed to Texas.
Yes.
I think Ryan Day had that in his back pocket. A little hindsight, hey, this is coming down the road. Yeah, come here.
No, absolutely. I mean, he's in Austin. I mean, he's in a suburb of Austin.
I think it's like Lakeview or something.
You know, I believe he went to the same high school as Drew Brees.
South Lake, Texas.
Yeah,
In that
South
area,
Lake Carroll or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see. As far as on the home front, down here in Baton Rouge, and again, we will talk to Shea Dixon coming up here in a couple of minutes. We'll talk to him at 8:15. We'll talk to Emery Jones at 7:30 this morning coming up here in a couple of minutes. And that was the good news for recruiting over the weekend. And look, Boys from the Boot was a big success for LSU as far as who they had on campus. I know that there was some talk about Aaron Anderson, the standout wide receiver from Carr, and whether or not he was going to go and be here this weekend. But he was actually at LSU. He was not at Alabama like some people had thought he was. I think that, you know, when you look at the visitor list, when you look at the people that were in town this weekend, one that stands out that was at Alabama was Shaz Preston, who's the top wide receiver. But talking to some people at LSU, this was the first time that Shaz's mom was able to see Alabama. And they called LSU. They communicated with LSU. They told all of the representatives with that, at LSU that the mom wanted to see all top 4 schools for Preston. And Alabama is within that top 4. And that was the only school that she had not seen. So this was a good opportunity for them to make the trip over to Tuscaloosa this weekend and visit Alabama, but with open lines of communication to LSU, which I think is very positive. Le'Veon Moss, who is a Baton Rouge native, was not at Alabama this weekend, but he was not at LSU as well. He was over at Texas A&M. He was also there with Jacoby Matthews. Now, Matthews is a story going into the weekend that kind of shook things up, right? Emery Jones was a big get.
It was a great night.
It was a roller coaster ride.
Thursday, I think.
It was a roller coaster ride for LSU going into the weekend, going into Boys from the Boot, where you lose Jacoby Matthews, who might be or is argued to be the top player in this class, the number 1 player in the state of Louisiana, which there is so much talent in this state this season that we talk about every day, it seems like, in recruiting, whether it's Walker Howard or Will Campbell or Quincy Wiggins or Jacoby Matthews or Shaz Preston or all these guys, man. I mean, all these guys are just top-end players at their position. Trevante Citizen, Aaron Anderson, Emery Jones. But Jacoby Matthews, when you talk to a lot of people, I mean, if you collect a lot of information and collect a lot of opinions on the class of 2022, Jacoby Matthews is right there at the top. And we talked to him a couple of weeks back, and very bright and great enthusiasm in our interview. He was very much excited to recruit for the class, and it seemed like this was all LSU here. Now, he spent the weekend at Texas A&M, and a lot of people that I have spoken to around LSU feels like this thing will come full circle and he'll be back in the class. And that there might be just at this time, just kind of experiencing and playing the game of recruiting and maybe wanting a little bit of love. And that's some of the things that you have to deal with when you're recruiting, not only the high-end guys, but when you just go through the recruiting process, right? I mean, it's a very frustrating process for a lot of levels of people who are going through it with Jacoby Matthews.
I mean, even Kim Mulkey said recruiting gets to you, man. It's just the emotional roller coaster.
It has to. I mean, think about what Jacoby Matthews was, the message he was spreading here a couple of weeks back. Can you imagine how much more that intensifies when he's talking to LSU representatives and that stuff? And then the weekend news is that Matthews decommits, and by talking to a lot of people at LSU, especially some of the prime players in this recruitment, I mean, they were blindsided. Not a phone call, not a text message. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You think we were blindsided. I mean, there were levels of this thing that were connected to Matthews that were completely T-boned on this thing, like had no idea that it was coming. And, that's cause for a lot of concern, with the recruiting staff for LSU, being that Matthews is one of the absolute jewels of this 22 class. Now, like I said, in speaking to some people in and around LSU and close to the recruitment specifically of Jacoby Matthews. I think ultimately he winds back up at LSU, and I think he does that early in December. But it'll be a little bit of a bumpy ride here for a couple of weeks and maybe a month or two before Matthews gets back, into the boat for LSU. But know this, and I don't think that anybody out there would learn anything over the next few statements. But obviously Matthews is a huge priority.
6'2", 205 as a senior in high school, big frame, long. It's just
they need safeties. They need DBs. Matthews is the best on the board at that position in the country. He's out of Ponchatoula, which is an LSU-friendly community. They've done a great job in recruiting him, and I expect that recruitment to end up back in LSU's favor. But in the meantime, Matthews is going to be a 5-star. And sometimes in recruiting a 5-star, it's bumpy. It's a little turbulent. And if you've followed recruiting long enough, then I don't think that this is really shocking to a lot of people. I mean, sure, you hate to lose the commitment if you're LSU, being that he's a local guy at a position of need. But ultimately, we've seen this before. Remember, Derek Stingley Jr. decommitted. I mean, he committed, decommitted, recommitted in the process, right? I mean, he was a 5-star, and a lot of people in and around Stingley would have told you, I don't know where else he's going to end up other than LSU. I mean, it would be surprising to anyone, Stingley's sophomore, junior year, when he was in the teeth of recruiting, for anybody to say, yeah, but LSU's losing the lead. I would expect that same storyline with Matthews.
Imagine the universe, him and Crimson.
Oh my God! I mean,
you want to throw
and I don't think that Alabama is the concern here on Matthews. It would be Texas A&M. But in the same sense, I will tell you that it was a good weekend for LSU at the safety position at the Boys of the Boot. Austin Alsbury and Jaden Alsbury, who Jaden is a 5-star linebacker at U-High right now, and his brother Austin is going into his senior season. Jaden's going into his junior year. Austin is collected a lot of offers this summer, and I think there were a lot of coaches and evaluators that wanted to get him on the practice field, getting him on the camp field, and see him in person before they extended the offer. Now, everybody he's worked out for, all of the summer visits that he's made, he's gotten an offer. And that's LSU too.
I just looked at his photo. I mean, that's a grown man.
He's a stud. And
they have in a snack drawer over there?
He was on campus this weekend. Obviously, people know the tie with his dad. His dad is Verge Alsbury. Verge, first and foremost, is a former LSU football player. He was a linebacker out of Opelousas back in his day, played in the mid-'80s with those Tommy Hodson, Harvey Williams, Eric Endelsick, Wendell Davis teams. And obviously he comes from a good bloodline of guys that have played football at a high level. But when you talk about the Alsburys, and we'll talk to Shea specifically about these two prospects, I mean, these are guys that LSU is hot on and they want. So to get those guys on campus this weekend, and they visited everybody. Everybody in the country wants Jaden, the 5-star linebacker, the junior right now, Austin's younger brother. And by no means, don't let me discount Austin at all. But when you have them standing side by side, one's a 4-star, one's a 5-star. But Austin is a guy that can play safety at the next level, and LSU is very high on him. So even though you lose Jacoby Matthews over the weekend, which, like I said, I envision that coming full circle and you get him back, to get Alsbury on campus was a win for LSU staff, both of them. To have both those guys on campus was a win. So that's my thoughts on Jacoby Matthews. I think ultimately they get him back. But when you look at the overall success of the weekend for Boys from the Boot, which we had Austin Thomas on Friday, and he was talking about some of the things that they wanted to accomplish this weekend. That was just bringing these guys in for a Saturday, relaxing, chilling, letting them see the campus, see the environment, see the facilities, which all of these guys are very familiar with. But just getting to know the class, just bringing everybody together. And you had Walker Howard here. You had Trevonte Citizen here. You had Aaron Anderson here at a car, which there was a lot of There was a lot of smoke going into the weekend on whether or not he was going to be in Baton Rouge or whether he was going to be in Tuscaloosa. And for him to be at LSU this weekend was a big win for the staff. Dakotas Crawford was down from North Louisiana, another wide receiver commit to LSU. The big boys, the offensive tackles, Bo Bordelon and Will Campbell, were both in Baton Rouge this weekend. Emery Jones, nice. The newly minted offensive line commit, who we'll talk to in 5 minutes here on the Jordy Culotta Show, was on campus on Saturday. Fitzgerald West out of Lafayette, who is signed as a center on this offensive line, was in town this weekend. LaTerrence Welch, who is a top cornerback in this class, was in town. Quincy Wiggins, I'm told, was the last person to leave the building on Saturday night.
And that was, much we love him.
That was big after his week in Austin, after his last couple of days. Last week he spent a few days over at the University of Texas, and obviously those guys put their best foot forward, knowing that Wiggins and the type of prospect that he is out of Baton Rouge and Texas really made an impact, really made a mark. And they are jumping all over that SEC stuff and talking to some people close to Quincy. But a strong day for Quincy Wiggins and LSU. As we said, last one out of the building. Jamon Tapp, the big defensive end, was in town. He really had a great day. So I think a lot of success to report from the weekend, even though that there is a little bit of a red mark going into it with Jacoby Matthews decommitting from LSU's class. And we'll talk to Emery a little bit about that on the end of our conversation about getting some of the guys back in the boat, or what the recruiting kind of looks like now for this class, as it's really starting to firm up. I mean, if you saw Emery Jones's commitment video, you saw both Walker Howard and Will Campbell a part of that. So you can tell that this class is very much building the ground and building the chemistry that they need going into signing day. Jacoby Matthews is going to be an early enrollee, so you would imagine that the news on his recruitment, whatever could be next, is going to pop pretty quick. I mean, it's not like you have until February here to get this thing done on both sides. So there is a little bit of time and a small window for Matthews to still get out and enjoy himself and get the love and recruiting, which, it means a lot to these guys. I mean, I know that some of us, a lot of us out there probably don't understand it. And, we sit in an age demographic and in an age bracket that, would handle it different ways. But, I mean, you're 18, 17, 18 years old, and you only go through this process one time. And, for a five-star guy, you see a lot of love come your way for a year and a half, and then you commit, and a lot of that shuts down. A lot of that goes away. And you may not be ready to give that up just yet. And I think that's where Matthews kind of stood going into the weekend. And I think Texas A&M was pushing a lot on Matthews to get him there for the weekend, and knew if he decommitted going into College Station this weekend that would create a big buzz around Texas A&M, and they did that. And, for their recruiting staff, they probably looked at it as an enormous win for them. But this thing's got to get to the finish line, and whoever gets the signature is going to be the real winner here. And I believe in the people that I've talked to, both close to Matthews and close to LSU, in LSU's recruiting and in and around this recruitment for Matthews, is that LSU's going to get the signature, and he's going to wind up in purple and gold. And at the end of it, that's all that really matters. And this part sucks, and you got to sit and watch him at Texas A&M and going and taking pictures and going through all that stuff. But at the end of it, he's going to be playing on Saturday's in Tiger Stadium, and that's what this is all about. And you're just not there yet. You're not in that part of the process yet. But when that part gets here, I believe that he'll sign with LSU. Daily, we were brought to you by Go Chevrolet. Remember, online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. Get in touch with Lee Carney and the crew over there to help you get into a used car model at Go Express Auto Sales or a brand new car over at Go Chevrolet. Online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. We will talk to Emery Jones, newly committed LSU offensive lineman to the class of 2022, next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Gearing up for spring and summer down. Are you self-employed? Then you need to learn about Angel Oak's Home Loans Bank Statement Pro. Go Chevrolet is proud to announce Go Express Auto Sales, the new used car lot located in the capital city of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Go Express Auto Sales is online at goexpressautosales.com, or you can search them on Facebook and social media at Go Express Auto Sales, the newest addition to the family of Go Chevrolet. Remember, Go Chevrolet is located down in LaPlace, Louisiana, but now welcoming aboard Go Express, the new used car lot located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at 11522 Florida Boulevard. Are you self-employed? Then you need to learn about Angel Oak's Home Loans Bank Statement program that they're offering, which makes you eligible as a self-employed borrower to purchase or refinance a home without requiring a tax return. If you want to learn more, get in touch with me. Email me, Jordy at jordyculotta.show.com, to learn about the bank statement loan program offered by Angel Oak. Jordy at jordyculotta.show.com to learn more. Are you self-employed? Then you need to learn about Angel Oak's Home Loans Bank Statement. Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. Let's jump right into it. Emery Jones is getting into a morning workout here and has just a couple of minutes with us here on the Jordy Culotta Show, daily presented by Go Chevrolet. Emery, thank you for the time this morning. Congratulations on your commitment, man. Hey, Emery, we got you?
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, sir. Congratulations on your commitment, man. I know that this was a huge process for you. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Good morning to you, too.
Take me through the process. What was it like finally coming to that commitment? I know that you had every school in the country coming after you. Why LSU?
Just because of the family aspect of things that they had there. O-line coach who I'm really comfortable with, Coach Davis. He left Arkansas and came to LSU, so it kind of helped that decision. And also my family, friends back at home here at Catholic. My family at Catholic, my family, it just had a great family aspect.
Yeah, if I recall, you were on an official visit to Arkansas the weekend that Coach Davis got the job at LSU. So tell me about what he's meant to your recruitment, your relationship with Coach Davis, and now that he'll be coaching you when you get to college.
It played a big role, just because the bond that we built. He's a Baton Rouge native, so kind of just gives that home feeling as a coach. So he kind of knows what I go through on a daily basis. So it's just, I know that I'll be comfortable with him. He'll be comfortable helping and coaching me getting better. And yeah, I just knew he was the coach that I kind of wanted to, be coached by throughout the process. So. What
was Boys from the Boot like over the weekend, getting everybody together?
Oh, it was fun. We had a good time. All Louisiana crews kind of getting to, get to know each other, bond with each other. It's just fun to be around those guys.
I saw Walker Howard and Will Campbell on your commitment video. Talk to me about how close this class is as you guys get closer to signing day.
It's real close. Got all the guys, all the commits in the group chat. We take dang on there every day, so we just got a real close bond and got a real close friendship with those guys, and I just feel like that's real important.
Was it important for you to get this done going into your senior year?
Yeah, I think it was very important for me personally because as a leader on our football team, I feel like it's real important that I be able to give my team my all, have my head in the right space all the time. So I feel like it was real important for me to get that out the way and focus on, my senior season.
David Semino, the new coach with Catholic High, you guys are absolutely fantastic when you look at the roster and what you guys accomplished over the past couple of seasons. I'd imagine the expectations stay the same even though there's a new head man in town.
Oh, yeah, definitely expectations the same, with this new coaching staff. They've been great. They've been pushing us our limits. So, we have trust in them. They have trust in us. So we're going to go out there and try to win that state championship.
You got to love this offensive line class at LSU with you, Campbell, Bordelon, and West, huh?
Oh, yes, sir. Love it.
Yeah, so really quick, I'll get you out of here. The recruiting the rest of this class, everybody's talking about Jacoby Matthews. How did that affect you guys as recruits, and what's the message to potential recruits in this class?
We said how? Can you ask that question again? You broke up a little bit.
Everybody was talking about Jacoby Matthews and him decommitting going into the weekend, and how did that affect you guys as recruits? And then what's the message to potential recruits as they're still out there uncommitted?
For us, it kind of hurt a little bit. I mean, we didn't know the real reason behind it. We still don't, most of us. So we just talked to Jacoby, and he told us that he loved us, and it's still brotherhood over here. And so it wasn't like a hate thing. Like, we don't hate Jacoby.
Sure.
No, it's nothing like that. We're still close with him. But something that we can tell other recruits is that we got a spot open now. Like, not gonna work for it, come get it, and join the brotherhood.
Emery, I think y'all get him back. I really do. I mean, I just following him. I think he comes back to LSU. Do you?
I think he does too.
Yeah.
That's what I kind of said. I kind of said he's coming back.
I agree, man. Y'all's class is fantastic either way. Congratulations on your commitment. Thank you for squeezing us in this morning. I know that you got a workout coming up with Coach Semino and Catholic High. Best of luck in your senior season, and congratulations on all your success, man.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
You got it, buddy. Thank you, man. There is Emery Jones checking in for just a couple of minutes. He was telling me as he was pulling up in the parking lot that the coaching staff hit him with a mass email last night on a unprompted practice this morning at 8 a.m. That is the worst. Thinking that you have the morning off, and then get hit with a text alert before you go to bed that everybody's needed at the facility before 8 a.m. On a Monday morning. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I've talked to a couple of high-end SEC recruiters who have told me that Catholic high schools got the best roster in the state of Louisiana from top to bottom, and specifically their underclassmen, guys that are like sophomores and juniors on this roster. Now,
looked at their schedule yet?
Yeah, it's incredible.
What's their biggest game?
I think they opened up in Washington, D.C. I think they opened up playing against Jordan Toles' old team. I mean, what's that team out of Maryland? I mean, this would be the schedule that Gabe Fertitta put together before Fertitta took the Louisville wide receivers job, which makes him one of the 10 on-field recruiting coaches for Louisville. And I believe that Fertitta will get an opportunity at a college at some point.
The high schools are Lady of Good Counsel.
In Washington, D.C.?
Yeah.
What, do you have the rest of the schedule up?
They also play West Monroe.
Acadiana.
West Monroe, Acadiana, those guys.
East Ascension, McKinley.
Those are
Santa
district.
Maul, Woodlawn, Dutchtown.
Santa Maul, Woodlawn, Dutchtown. Those are district games.
Yep.
McKinley.
But at West Monroe.
At West Monroe. At Acadiana. Where do they play Acadiana?
At home.
I mean,
Warren Easton at home.
Warren Easton.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a.
You just look at that schedule. I mean, that's very similar to the schedule that we talked about. Woodlawn, to me, has the most fierce schedule in the state right now. I mean, Woodlawn plays anybody who is everybody, and Ricky Collins was on the list from Boys from the Boot over the weekend. And if you're looking at just the quarterback position for LSU, it kind of seems like the LSU. It kind of feels like the LSU contingency, the LSU coaches feel like at this point Arch might be a little bit of a long shot. Not that it's over. Not that it's over. Not that they're giving up on recruiting him, and not that they're going to go into to Arch Manning's recruitment with guns blazing and try to put LSU at the forefront of it. But the way that we've seen kind of the temperature change on Ricky Collins this summer and as much attention as he's starting to get from LSU staffs and SEC staffs, would lead me to believe that they're just fine in the class of 2023 if they come away with Ricky Collins while everybody's coming after Eli Holstein and Arch Manning. And I'm not discounting Collins, and I don't want Collins to kind of seem like the third tier of these guys, because if you have seen Collins play, he's fantastic. I mean, he has got all of just the intangibles that you at least want your quarterback to have, like a fierce competitor, a great leader, somebody who physically puts in the work, mentally knows that there is still a lot to learn, but yet plays with this confidence to him that he is the best player on the floor, on the field. I'm telling you, his basketball highlights are just as impressive as his football highlights, which I love. I love a multi-sport quarterback.
Emery Jones. Correct me if I'm wrong on Ricky Collins. He worked out 3 times in front of JP to get that offer. He's like, bring it. Anytime
you needed him to work out. In fact, one of the great stories that I heard of Ricky Collins was that some of the coaches, big-time coaches, and I believe Pete's was one of them, went and watched him in 7-on-7. And it was like Arkansas, Kentucky, Florida, LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, both the Mississippi schools, Texas A&M, were all sitting on the sideline watching Collins play. And one coach remarked that he hadn't even seen us yet. Like he doesn't, right. He won't even look over here and recognize us. I mean, a lot of times when you walk onto the field with your coach's polo or your hat on, I mean, a lot of the eyeballs get pretty big and staring at you from the sideline, from players, of just, recognizing that there are, people there evaluating you.
Right.
And Collins didn't even blink, didn't even recognize that all these guys, all these coaches were there to watch him play. He couldn't leave, just kind of the focus of the game, and that turned a lot of those guys on. Like, that was a lot,
right.
For a lot of them, they don't see that a lot. And for Collins to show that, and then, and then be a player, like be a dog once the game started. It kind of seems like the LSU crowd is kind of settling in on Collins as that is their primary target for 2023. And like I said, LSU had quarterbacks on campus. Mm-hmm. They had Walker Howard, obviously was there from the class of 2022. He is, the one of the bright and shining pieces for LSU in this current recruiting class. And then you talk about a guy like Ricky Collins from the class of 2023, who was on campus as well. So they are recruiting into the future at the quarterback spot. They also had Mabry Matower. I don't know if that's right.
Little Trevor Lawrence lookalike
guy. Yes.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
He came back.
Great flow. 2024 class.
Okay.
And he's out of Texas. He was in town on Saturday as well. So you had 3 years of recruiting cycles of quarterbacks on campus, of guys that you like, and you had all types of names here. We mentioned the guys that were there for Boys from the Boot. So we'll talk more about recruiting coming up here with Shea Dixon at 8:15 this morning. Remember, if you have a recruiting question, get inside of the bunker.
Good guy to ask too.
And Shea will get that answered for you. And Jimmy James is right. Yeah, Tolles went to St. Francis in Baltimore, which is one of the dominant high school programs.
World of recruiting, when did the 7-on-7 league really start to get prominent?
Over the last decade is really when it became as popular as it is. Yes. And I'd say specifically over the last 5 years, there's been a real emphasis in recruiting put on it. Like, a lot of people have started to see, and wide receivers and DBs. Just a lot of Stingley was a 7-on-7 phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
He was a two-way guy.
Yeah.
That would play, but he made a lot of his reputation came off of the 7-on-7 circuit because, look, man, I'm not banging on the Dunham School, and they accomplished a ton with Stingley there, but they're a lower classification school that a lot of people, when they evaluated Stingley against that competition, would say, is it fair, right?
Yeah,
does it really test him like he needs to be tested? And I mean, obviously, you saw the way that he responded when he got to the SEC level. He was prepared and ready to go. But a lot of his reputation came off of the 7-on-7 circuit. I remember when he got back into Baton Rouge after him and George Pickens, the wide receiver at Georgia, went one-on-one for the first time on a 7-on-7 field, and the video was like Quincy Wiggins and Will Campbell going at each other. I mean, it was like, just two pit bulls, two alphas being uncaged and getting into each other. It didn't matter if they didn't have pads on or not, just like Wiggins and Campbell. I mean, they were fist fighting in that matchup, and same was with Pickens and Stingley. But that's really kind of, I remember the first time being like, wow, look at 7-on-7 and the impact that it's having on recruiting. So I'd say specifically over the last 5 years, you could really probably pinpoint the explosive rise of it. But over the last decade, it's starting to make its name.
What do you think the ceiling is? What we have today in AAU circuit of basketball?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's there.
If you look at like Zion in high school, people like
it's very comparable to Stingley. He was playing at 1A.
He's playing against these little white guys.
Yeah.
And so like you see the athletic standpoint, like you see him jumping 50 inches in the air, but he's not beating guys that he's going to be playing on the next level.
Right.
Then when he goes and plays for South Carolina Supreme in AAU, and he's doing the same thing to 5-star recruits. Then
right. Now you're saying, okay, he's legit.
Right.
I mean, like all the hype is legitimate.
Right.
Right. I mean, and that to me is what 7-on-7 has done, has qualified a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or disqualified.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Gives you that pipeline, IMG, schools like that.
Sure.
Too.
I mean, there's a lot of 7-on-7 superstar quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
I can see it wide receivers now. That's where you tell your kids.
Sure.
That's where you make your money.
Absolutely.
Well, you look good as a quarterback when nobody's running at you.
Yeah, nobody's rushing
I mean,
you.
you get to sit back there.
I mean, everybody wants to play all-time quarterback.
Right.
You know what I mean? And 7-on-7 can allow that. But, I mean, as far as defensive back, wide receiver evaluation, then, the top-end quarterbacks are going to shine. Oh, yeah. I mean, you're going to see arm strength. You're going to see the ability to, put ball into windows, touch, deep ball, all that stuff. You can't hide that on a 7-on-7 field. All right, so we'll get back to recruiting here. We have spent 45 minutes on recruiting here, talking the first part of the show after a very eventful weekend, not only in recruiting but for LSU specifically. When you lose 5-star Jacoby Matthews, but you pick up 4-star offensive lineman Emery Jones, who we appreciate very much for giving us a couple of minutes here on the Jordy Culotta Show and talking about that recruitment and just kind of where it stacks up right now. Simone Biles is coming back. She is confirmed, this broke this morning very early, that she will compete in Tuesday's Beam Finals in Tokyo. I'm not sure if anybody out there really cares about this, judging by the numbers and the ratings that NBC is putting out after some of the eyeballs. But I don't think that we can argue that Simone Biles was probably the face of our Olympic team going over to Tokyo. I would definitely say she's the most popular Olympian outside of Durant. I mean,
who else?
Who else of USA?
Name a runner?
Who else in Tokyo from the U.S. team is getting any attention in Olympic Park outside of Durant and Biles? I mean, I'm sure there are.
I mean, there's Caleb Dressel, the swimmer.
Right.
But most of that's performance based. These are guys.
Swimmers are so good looking, bro.
And you saw he had a 43-inch vertical.
Unbelievably good looking.
43-inch vertical.
Super athletes.
But like Simone and Kevin Durant are the only ones that had like that name recognition.
Yeah, right. Like you can face recognize them.
Right.
Like when they walk into the room, you're like, "There's Simone Biles."
Before they came in and performed this year.
There's KD.
Right.
So Biles had previously opted out of the individual all-around as well as the vault and uneven bars on the floor exercise. She qualified for all individual events last week and was the favorite to win multiple gold medals heading in to the Tokyo Games. She had withdrawn from the team about a week ago. She later told the media that she experienced a little bit of the twisties, which means that from all reports, it was just kind of like mentally, she was kind of breaking down.
Yeah, it's like where they don't know where they're at, like in the air.
Right.
So they can't like control the flip or whatever. So
Libra.
I can't even imagine how.
Biles explained that she was still experiencing the phenomenon of twisties over the weekend, in which gymnasts feel like they get lost in the air, and said of her, mind and body are simply not in sync. I mean, what a just tragic situation for an athlete.
I'd never heard of that until now.
Call her a quitter.
But I mean, what a joke.
Right.
But I mean, like very similar probably to what Ben Simmons is experiencing as a basketball player, a golfer. That goes through the yips. Who was the Chuck Knobloch was the second baseman for the New York Yankees that couldn't make the throw from second base to first base. I mean, he would double clutch. He would pat his glove. He would throw the ball over the first baseman into the dugout, into the stands. I mean, it was tough to watch. It was hard to watch somebody at a professional level just mentally not be able to execute, not be able to do what, I mean, up to this point, can't we say that Simone Biles is calling, like what she has been put on this earth for, you would think, is to be this top-notch gymnast, Olympian that she really was? I mean, I was going back and reading some of the press from when the Olympics were suspended last season, and Biles's immediate response was, I don't know if I can do this to my body for another year. I really don't know if I can just go through the grueling training process, the injuries, the day in, day out grind.
Get that, what it does to
I don't think
body.
they do either. And let me tell you, from my point of view, guilty. I was guilty of it. I understand the hard work that it takes to become an Olympian. I mean, I understand that these athletes are some of the most driven, focused, and hardest working, just individuals that we all know. But you kind of lose sight of that when it's out of sight, out of mind. And going back and reading some of the stuff that Biles has put her body through, that she commits to every day, just from a recovery standpoint. Forget the physical, toll that it takes. And I'm not making excuses to what she's doing, because I understand that there is a competitive spirit out there that, you would feel like, man, I hope she can overcome that on the highest level. But it is good to see her back. That is what I'm trying to get to. Is that Biles is going to compete tomorrow in the finals of the beam competition.
I hope she does.
And I hope she does too. Because I do think of what her thoughts of this will be in 25 years, in 30 years. And I wonder if that will haunt her.
Were you indifferent on it? I mean, I didn't think she was a hero. I didn't think she was a quitter. It was just like, oh, all right, well, it happens in sports. It's whatever.
No, I understood it. I mean,
you look into the twisties part. I mean, that's got to be one of the scariest things ever. Yeah, like you're up in the air and you don't know how you're going to land. I mean, you can't falter for that.
No, I don't think you can. I mean, I think it's easy. I think it's lazy. I think it's to pile on her, to how could you blow this opportunity? How could you take this chance and get to this stage? And I mean, there's no way that there's anybody more wanting and willing on the planet that wants to get this done more than Simone Biles.
She just committed 5 years.
I mean, she's made the ultimate sacrifice and commitment to get here, and then once you get to the stage and can't perform, I just have to imagine that is a very cruel world.
It's like, what did I do this for?
But I hope that she succeeds tomorrow, because she will have the opportunity. As we said this morning, news was breaking that Simone Biles will compete tomorrow.
At least it gives the Olympics a plot.
It gives them a little bit of a boost. It gives them a little bit of an energy boost, a little spark.
Yeah, there was nothing.
And then the other story that I wanted to get to before we get to our weekend heroes and some of the stories that stood out for the weekend, coming up here at 8 o'clock, and we'll talk to Shea at 8:15 about recruiting boys from the boot, Emery Jones, Jacoby Matthews, all of those storylines coming up with Shea Dixon at 8:15 this morning, is that Kumar Rocker potentially could be back in the SEC next year. He's not going to the major leagues.
Yeah.
He's not signing with the New York Mets. The deadline for signing draft picks was yesterday, 4 o'clock Central, and it has come and gone, and Kumar Rocker is not signed to the New York Mets. He was the 10th overall selection in the draft a couple of weeks back. New York and Rocker had negotiated a $6 million signing bonus, but reports started to surface over the last week that there was a conflict in the way that his MRI was being interpreted both from Scott Boras and his representatives to the New York Mets representation. Mets GM Zach Scott said via statement yesterday, "This is clearly not the outcome we had hoped for, and we wish Kumar nothing but the best and success in moving forward." Scott Boras replied to that statement put out by the New York Mets, stating Kumar Rocker is healthy according to independent medical reviews by multiple prominent baseball orthopedic surgeons. Immediately upon the conclusion of his collegiate season, he had an MRI on both his shoulder and his elbow, and when those were compared to his 2018 MRI conclusions, the medical experts found no significant damage. Rocker did not miss a start in his college career. He was slated to miss time in 2020 due to some forearm tightness before COVID-19 shut down the season. But as we said, right now in the status that Kumar Rocker operates, he's got two options, or he's got three options. He can go to the independent league and pitch there and wait for the 2022 draft. He can go back to Vanderbilt and be the ace on the staff again, or he can go play like in an international league. He can go down to Cuba. He can go to Tokyo. He can go to Japan. He can go to some of these international leagues that exist. That could be a play for him right now as he stands, or he could transfer to Jay Johnson's program at LSU and become immediately eligible.
Just a thought.
Yeah, right. Just throwing it out there. But that is crazy to think about, that Kumar Rocker. I mean, think about the discussions that we were having in and around Rocker going into baseball season, during baseball season. Think about that Friday night that he had in Baton Rouge and watching him just mow down LSU's lineup, thinking this cat is going to be a stud at the next level.
So intimidating when he's like lighter when he gets on the mound. You're just like,
he looks like a C. He looks like an accountant.
And then Rocker walks out there looking like a small forward and just lasers it down the middle.
What's funny is Steve Cohen's probably one of the richest owners in baseball, yet they pay $1.9 million every year to Bobby Bonilla.
Bonilla?
Oh, yeah, who doesn't play?
Yeah.
And it's funny, on July 2nd, Cohen has a tweet that says, to play GM, you have to say what you're willing to give up to get somebody. That didn't age too well.
Yeah, I mean, the Rocker story is wild. I mean, it's just
pay him. Pay him.
It's crazy, man. I mean, just over a couple of things from just a couple of MRI results that they disagree on, and next thing you know, the 10th pick in the draft
just wasted it.
Potentially is going back to school. Now, I have seen reports where the Rockers said they're not going back to Vanderbilt. And that they're going to wait on 2022. So it's going to be crazy to see
his dad's
what's going to happen. Tracy, defensive line
for the Eagles.
Yeah, and he's bounced all around. I mean, he's got a hell of a football resume.
At least he kind of knows about the college, right?
Tracy Rocker is his name, and he was a dominant defensive tackle. He was a defensive tackle in the Auburn game, the earthquake game for Auburn versus LSU. All right, we are brought to you daily here by Falaya Real Estate over here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Our friend Barrett Blondo is doing incredible work with Falaya Real Estate. It's no secret that things are changing in our world, and a lot of it is technology-based. Falaya Real Estate is doing that with the way that real estate is bought and sold. Technology is making it a lot easier to buy and sell houses, and for a whole lot cheaper. Introducing Falaya. From virtual tours to push-button offers, Falaya is redefining how real estate is sold. For more information, visit Falaya.com or download the app today. They're in your Google and Apple app stores. If you're looking and thinking about selling your house at the end of the summer or going into the fall, thinking about trying for sale by owner, then you need to check out Falaya. Listing plans start at $399. You can sell your house by yourself, save thousands with Falaya. If you want more information, visit them online at Falaya.com. That's Falaya.com. Or call our friend Barrett Blondo. Blondo is a 225 area code at 939-6153, 225-939-6153, or online at Falaya.com. Tell them you heard it here at the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, we'll reset and we'll have your weekend heroes, people that stood out here over the weekend, as we'll have some stories for you going into the 8 o'clock hour. Then at 8:15, we'll talk to Shea Dixon. Got a couple of questions already starting to add up here, already starting to pile up, for for Shea Dixon inside of the bunker. If you have a question for Shea D, get inside there or wherever you listen to us. DM us, email us, and get your questions in, your recruiting questions in, and we'll get them to Shea at 8:15 as he's coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school.
Are you self-employed? Then you need to learn about Angel Oak's Home Loans Bank Statement program that they're offering, which makes you eligible as a self-employed borrower to purchase or refinance a home without requiring a tax return. If you want to learn more, get in touch with me. Email me, jordy@jordyculotta.show.com, to learn about the bank statement loan program offered by Angel Oak. jordy@jordyculotta.show.com to learn more. Gearing up for spring and summer down here in South Louisiana, and you want to keep your lawn maintained during these sunny seasons, get in touch with our friend Blake Abear over at Abear's Lawn Maintenance, where he says, you grow it, I mow it. 225-485-8022. 225-485-8022 is where you can find Abear's Lawn and Maintenance, the official lawn and maintenance company of the undisclosed location. Relief Health, the only way to get your health.
Well, folks, it's time to kick it old school. So you can feel cool. Give it to me, baby. Baby. Yeah.
Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet every day, GEAUX, Chevrolet.com. Special thanks to our Hour 1 sponsor, our Hour 1 guest, Emery Jones, for stopping by here. Jones, of course, the highly touted offensive lineman from Catholic High School. We played some of his basketball highlights over the last couple of days. Have you seen that video that I sent you?
Big baby.
He is big baby. I'm telling you, his feet are incredible. So thanks to him for stopping by as he gave his account of Boys from the Boot over the weekend. Made his commitment video, which featured Walker Howard and Will Campbell. So talked a little bit about the relationship of the class of 2022. Also gave his thoughts on Jacoby Matthews, which he and I agree. He says that he thinks that Matthews will end up back at LSU. We'll ask Shea Dixon that coming up here at 8:15 this morning, as Dixon will be in from Go 247 answering all of your recruiting questions. Jeff asks, we're good on sound right now, correct?
Yeah, it says it.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
I think we would definitely be hearing from the masses if they could not hear us. So let us know with a thumbs up or just everything's good out there from an audio standpoint if it's coming through for you. We will tell you who our heroes of the weekend are coming up here in a couple of minutes. But daily, don't forget that we are brought to you by A-Bears Specialty Meats. A-Bears is located out in Prairieville, and it's also located here in Baton Rouge in the Bocage Shopping Center, right next to Pearson's Luggage, which, by the way, Pearson's is going out of business. And right now, everything under the roof, 40% off. So you might want to stop in and check out Pearson's. And if you do, walk in next door to A-Bears Specialty Meats and let them serve you lunch today, as they've got great lunch specials every single day. They serve up lunch. In fact, they're coming up with a Culotta Show special, which I think is going to be 2 chili dogs, a side of Zapp's potato chips, and a drink that can get you for a very affordable price. And while you're in there, shop all the freezers, because in the freezers they've got hamburgers, they've got steaks, they've got the deboned stuffed chickens. We were also talking about gift ideas for the holidays, which are going to be here before you know it. So if you are a manager, if you have if you are an owner, if you need to give some of your clients, if you need to give some of your customers, if you need to give some of your employees some gifts for the holidays, remember it's A-Bears Specialty Meats gift cards, as they translate great for gifts, as you can get somebody a gift card to get in there for just a daily lunch or just to pick up some dinner heading home. So check out the A-Bears Specialty Meats on Facebook, on social media, abearspecialtymeats.com, but located in Baton Rouge on Jefferson Highway, and then out in Prairieville in the Dutchtown Shopping Center. So if you get off right there at 73, you'll see it right there off the interstate in the right as Dutchtown Shopping Center, A-Bears Specialty Meats. Stop in and grab a hot lunch today, as you can pick up what's going on inside of the freezer and get a great lunch special from A-Bears. All right, heroes of the weekend. Noah, can you give me a little bit of music in the background there? Just a little bit of something that we can play underneath here as we talk to you about what stood out this weekend. I'll start here, and as we mentioned, Simone Biles coming back, and we'll be back in team competition for the Beam tomorrow. Some of the Olympics winners. How about Kevin Durant? KD passed up. You don't like it?
Because there's many layers to Carmelo Anthony. You have Hoodie Melo. You have USA Melo.
No more USA Melo.
Yeah, there's no more USA Melo. The legend dies.
Kevin Durant passed up Melo, who previously sat atop the list with 336 points scored as an Olympian. KD only needed 6 points on Saturday to make history, and they were able to get that done as KD and Team USA set up against Spain here in the quarters. Ricky Rubio and the Spaniards. Gasols, yeah, they're about 11 deep. It's a deep team in Spain, and right now considered they're rated like second behind Team USA going in to the competition.
A Pelicans player on Spain, Willie Hernan Gomez.
Yes.
He's on the Spain team.
Nice. So my first weekend hero, KD and Team USA for the win, and then KD getting the scoring title as an Olympic basketball champion, or as an Olympic basketball player.
I got the 3 Cubs players that were traded. Chris Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez all dropping bombs in their debut with the new squad.
Did you see the Yankees tweet on Rizzo's home run? I thought it was a great caption. H to the Rizzo. As he hits a 400-plus bomb in his debut as a Yankee. Noah mentioned it. Baez hits a 2-run shot for the Mets the next day, and then Chris Bryant, making his debut as a San Francisco Giant yesterday, hits one in the third, and the place just goes nuts as Bryant.
It's the first time like 3 players all hit a bomb in their debut.
It was cool, man.
It's crazy. It's awesome.
Just melting, bro. Theo Epstein just looking at it, just saying, what happened to the house I built, man? I mean, all these guys. I was thinking about Hunt Palmer when I was watching that, thinking, what was Hunt throwing into the television? What home run did he kick, throw, and scream? Which, by the way, Hunt is a weekend hero here. As I don't know if the news is broke, but it should be coming here soon. If it has not, that Hunt will be getting the midday slot over on ESPN Radio.
Well deserved.
Very well deserved. Very well deserved for
Jackknife
the
of Baton Rouge
LSU
Radio.
Sports Radio Network's own Hunt Palmer, as he will be the midday host now over at ESPN Baton Rouge, and my man has paid his dues in Baton Rouge sports media, and is one of the great ones. So congratulations to him, and all the success to our friend Hunt Palmer as he sets off on a new venture here. Who you got, Jack?
My hero of the week. Remember when you were talking about the Padres?
Yeah.
The pitcher that hit the grand slam?
Yes.
You see his dad and you want to start crying. Did you see it's the backup quarterback for the Lions watching
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
Is it
wife
Daniel
run
Bowe?
yeah, I think it's below.
Something like that,
Yeah.
Watching his wife run the 400, and the whole team's there cheering him on. Even who's the quarterback?
Jared Goff was sitting right behind him.
I mean, the guy who was trying to steal his job from, he's cheering for him. He's losing his marbles, seeing his wife win the silver, and it's just one of those moments. Where it's
Awesome.
just,
It is.
You want to cry.
I did cry when I watched it the first time.
I mean, the whole team's in there.
Get him.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You gotta go, Meg. You gotta go, Meg. You gotta go, Meg. I mean, dude, it's some good video. And then for him to turn around and see all of his boys supporting him,
Awesome.
yeah, that's a cool moment. I mean,
Maybe they're
that
doing
is the
something
beautiful
right,
thing
actually.
about team.
That's
You know what I mean?
Sports.
Like,
That's
to
what makes
me,
sports amazing.
That's what everybody misses when you get away from
Right.
sports. Is those
Brotherhood.
moments. You really don't remember the practice, day in, day out of grind of practice, or it's like those moments where
Backup quarterback.
yeah,
There was
man.
a-
I mean,
there
you're
was
just a
a-
team. Just being a part of a team is.
Yeah, an NCAA basketball player who in a post-game conference was asked, what's one thing you'll miss about like playing college basketball? And his answer was team dinners. Like, it had
Yeah,
nothing to do
absolutely.
with playing. It was all about
I mean,
his
but like you
teammates.
read all these like Magic Johnson and like Michael Jordan and all these greats that get away from it, and you ask them like, what do you miss? Like, what part do you miss? And it's like the bus rides,
Right.
the plane trips,
Right. It's
you know,
the best
playing
part.
cards in the back of the
Right.
room. I mean, you know, like the conversations of walking to and from practice. I mean, everything outside of the glory,
Yeah.
really and truly. I mean, it's everything outside of what it's about. My second weekend hero, or really somebody who won the weekend, is Dr. Tom Conley. I don't know if you've seen this story. What about this guy? Tom Conley is known as the dentist to the stars. So he has outfitted a couple of mouths and has done it at a very high price. But this weekend took the cake as Odell Beckham Jr., the Cleveland Browns standout and former LSU and Newman star out of New Orleans, dropped $1.8 million on new teeth. He got veneers, and then he got some of his back teeth framed with 13 carats of diamonds. He's got 13 carat diamonds in his mouth.
Talk about having money to spend.
That is
I want to
absolutely.
reach that level.
It's just it's
I got
just
so
burning a
I
hole in
got
her
so much
pocket.
money. I don't know what to do with
right
it.
in my pocket.
I've got no idea what to do with all of this money. How can I blow $1.8 million? You know what you can do? You put 13 carats of diamonds in your mouth. He's got an iced out cross on his fang, which is on the back
Shark
teeth
tooth.
on both sides, and then he's got his back teeth are just like infused
Can you eat
with
with those?
diamonds. That's what I was wondering. I don't. I mean, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to be able to, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
first off, if I'm getting $1.8 million done in my mouth, I'm not taking out any of my teeth to
Right.
eat, right? Like, I mean, if I'm paying $1.8 million,
have to be
my
a
food
vegan
better
for
eat
it.
itself. I mean, $1.8 million on teeth.
You better put up numbers, bro.
You better be a baller, bro. You better be a player.
I
But
got one more here.
Tom Conley for me is the guy.
Because we just lost all hope in athletes. No one talks about this rags to riches story. Jason Preston from the University
Oh my,
of
yeah,
Ohio.
Yeah.
He went
crazy
third,
story.
third in the second round. Senior year high school, he scored like 52 points. At one point, his biological mom died. His dad walked out. He's living in a condo with his mom's friend in Miami. He has nothing to his name. So his freshman year, he enrolls at the University of Central Florida, starts just playing at the rec center.
Right,
and one
right.
day his friends need a fifth in an AAU tournament, plays in the AAU tournament, dazzles some coaches, gets 2 offers from the University of Ohio, works his tail off this year. He's able to upset number 4,
Virginia.
and then is able to get drafted this year and finally make some money. Unbelievable story.
Wow, that is incredible. Some of the weekend winners coming in from the bunker is from Team USA. soccer, defeating Mexico.
But a great summer.
Last night. They have. U.S. beat them 1-0 last night in the 2021 Gold Cup final, which was over in Vegas. The final was last night. That's an incredible win for Team USA. I mean, I don't know. Mexico. I can't go into depth here, but I mean, just when you think about USA soccer compared to Mexico soccer, I mean, that's almost, like the New England Patriots to the Cleveland Browns, right? I mean, like, does it seem right? So for Team USA to get the win is very much
baby. Got the kid who plays
a
for
weekend
Chelsea.
hero for sure. So we appreciate your interaction there as Matt Maudan and Whodat 1986 getting into the conversation and giving us some tidbits on what to look out for some weekend heroes. But yes, I agree I think Noah's is probably the best one with the 3 Cubs and what they accomplished.
Theo's the loser of the week. He's the villain
over the week. Over the weekend with all 3 of those guys. I have no idea.
They had somebody hit a big time home run for the Cubs, but
yeah, right.
I never heard of him.
I know.
I mean, Jordy Culotta. I mean, they got a bunch of no names.
I mean, has there ever been a rebuild like that?
No.
Where you get rid of every single
superstar
player with names,
faces of franchises.
That won you a ring.
Real quick, Saints signed Devonta Freeman to a 1-year contract that was breaking over the weekend, according to NFL Network. Freeman visited the team on Saturday. Is this a big deal? I don't think this is a big deal. I don't think he's any good anymore.
I don't know. I don't know. It's less of his performance and more of the reason why they did it. Because I think there's different. Like, do you split Kamara out now that you have?
Haven't we seen Peyton do this before in the past where he's tried to motivate people in camp? I remember Adrian Peterson being brought in to a Mark Ingram backfield that you thought he was really going to have a breakout year. And when you signed Adrian Peterson, people were like, why is he doing that? Why? And kind of the behind the scenes thing was he was motivating the group that he had. If you remember, he cut Peterson like after week 3, week 2. This to me feels a little bit like
similar.
That. Maybe it's taking a couple of reps off of Kamara in camp and
just
in preseason.
It's going to be a run-heavy team.
Yes, I think so.
I mean, we're going to have to be.
Yeah, I think that.
But I mean, Latavius Murray is still there, who's obviously our number 2 back.
I agree. I
mean, Freeman going down memory lane when the Falcons went to the Super Bowl.
No,
how amazing he was!
He was a dog.
He was good. He was good, but he's not good anymore. I mean, he was on the Giants team last year.
Right.
Did he make a play? I don't remember him make a play.
I don't know. I didn't watch any Giants games.
The only thing I saw was Daniel Jones' trip. That's the only thing I remember from the Giants.
But yeah, it's a interesting decision.
Yeah, it is. It definitely was when it came across the wire on Saturday. I thought, what?
It's like a Belichick move.
Why is he doing that? But Freeman gets the contract from New Orleans, but I think this is more motivation and or taking some reps off of Kamara.
Well, moves like that sometimes hit. Danny Woodhead, he got his fame to the claim because he was on Hard Knocks with the Jets, and Belichick, it's because Rex Ryan was talking his shit.
Yeah, but some
Belichick
people
was pissed and was like, fuck this. I'm gonna get this guy Woodhead because he got
some
so much
people
airtime.
Just fit systems like Danny Woodhead did in New England.
He was so good.
I don't think that Peyton has that system. To me, a system guy in Peyton's scheme would be like a tight end.
Right.
You know what I mean? Somebody that's a great route runner and catch and passing.
The big signing, I think, for the Saints was Hogan.
Yeah.
I've heard that he's looked amazing.
Right, he has. I have heard the same, that he is not dropping anything.
You know what's a fun fact? He won more rings with the Patriots than Wes Welker. Chris Hogan.
Hit 4?
Hit 2. I don't think Welker won. Did Welker win?
I don't know.
He lost both because they lost
that's you, bro. You're supposed to know that. I don't know anything about the Northeast teams. All right, we're going to talk to Shea Dixon next here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, speaking of dentist, our dentist on the Jordy Culotta Show is Johnson and Spillers. You will never get a bill for $1.8 million from Johnson and Spillers. I can promise you that. They are very affordable. They are very trusting, and they do great work. Not only can they help you out with all of your dentist needs, like if you want veneers, they can do that for you. But they can also help you out with just the basic teeth cleaning. If you need any dental work done, like I've had a tooth extracted, I've got to have the tooth replaced. We're going to do a bunch of work to the mouth through Johnson Spillers. I trust him. He's a great friend. Go see my guy Chad Spillers over at Johnson Spillers Dentistry. They're online, johnsonspillers.com. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. They're all over social media. So stop in and see them. and tell them that you heard it here on the Jordy Culotta Show. 2 locations. One's in Gonzales. The other is in Baton Rouge, and they are online at johnsonspillers.com. Next, we talk about recruiting. Shea Dixon will be here to recap Boys from the Boot. Why did Jacoby Matthews decommit? What does the commitment of Emery Jones mean to LSU in that offensive line? How's it shaping up under the new coach in Coach Brad Davis? And then this quarterback room. When you look past 2022, this class in Walker Howard and crew, who does he like? Is Ricky Collins and his name gaining as much steam as it seems like it is gaining on the recruiting trail? All of that and more with Shea Dixon coming up here next on the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet. Noah and Jack holding it down as Lloyd and Katie on a vacation this week, much deserved for both of them, so they'll enjoy their time off. Be back with us next week as we jump in to football season. Got a great lineup for you here during football season. One of those will be Shea Dixon, who covers recruiting over at Go 247, has been on top of everything that's been happening over the past 72 hours down here in Baton Rouge, and LSU has been very active on the trail during that time span. As we told you in the first hour, losing 5-star safety in Jacoby Matthews, as many has argued, maybe the top player in this class, to picking up 4-star offensive lineman Emery Jones out of Catholic High School, who was a must-get for Coach Davis, the offensive line staff, and the offensive staff for LSU. And then boys from the boot this weekend, which Walker Howard, Chavonta Citizen, Will Campbell, Emery Jones, all of them are there. And here to recap it is the best in the business, Shea Dixon from Go 247. Shea D, good morning. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I heard Lloyd's at the beach right now.
Lloyd's chilling right now in the sand. I would like to. The story should be pretty good with the family. So I don't know if Lloyd can be as sketchy as he'd like to be. Right, but probably shame on me for not thinking that.
I had texted him before he got on. I said, "Hey, are we all still good to go?" And he just responded, "I'm at the beach, fam. I'm not sure."
Probably.
Whoa.
I don't know, man.
But you're up at 8:20. Yeah. I'm impressed.
We did have any monitoring the show. If anything went wrong, we were going to get him back here. We're going to teleport him back from his vacation. Shea, the weekend was. How would you deem the past 3 days for LSU football? How would you sum it up?
Oh man, so we're going all the way back to Friday. A roller coaster, right? That's what recruiting is. I think that there's way more positive to take away than negatives. And look, and people will say, okay, great, you got a commitment, but you lost the commitment from a 5-star. I get it. Okay, hey, look, you had a boy from the boot, but some of the guys from Louisiana went to other schools. I get it. That happens every cycle. Look, and Derek Stingley was committed and decommitted once. Jaquelin Roy committed and decommitted once. Jacoby Stevens. I could keep going down the list of guys who were even on last year's team who had been committed to LSU, decommitted, and then came back around and signed with the Tigers in the end. So let's start with Jacoby Matthews. I don't look at his decommitment as the end of the world at all for LSU. In fact, given that just a couple of weeks ago, Jordy, and on your show, and as well with interviews, he said, I'm firm. I'm 100%. Look, it was getting all the phone calls, all that. It wasn't fun for me anymore. I knew where I wanted to go. I want to go to LSU. That's where my buddies are going. I'm going to help recruit the class. I don't think so much has changed in just 14 days that now he's soured on LSU. I don't think he has at all. So long story short, I think that he does wind up back at LSU. Now, A&M has become the flavor of the week, at least the weekend, right, that he decommits and then goes straight over there. It was notable given that A&M didn't make either of his top final teams, which are top sixes, back in February and then again in April, right before he committed to LSU. The Aggies weren't in either of those mixes. So they've done a bit of catching up, certainly, over the past summer months, and he took a visit over there in June, and now you're looking at him being decommitted and immediately visiting College Station right out of the gate and into this month-long dead period. But I still don't think it's, at least for me right now, it's not enough for LSU fans to press any panic button. He's got a great relationship with this staff, with a lot of members of the staff, and then he's close with a lot of guys that are in this class who are still committed, who are going to eventually be committed. So not the pressure, but kind of the added bonus of staying, these Louisiana kids, is a lot of them want to play at LSU, but a lot of them like the idea that the other guys want to play at LSU, that they'll be together. Yeah. And I think that, you heard Emery Jones talking about it. I think those guys behind the scenes talk to each other a good bit more than we probably even realize. And I think that everybody right now from talking around is saying, hey, look, let him go enjoy things. And I think this is more so, you can say NIL or someone's dirty recruit in LSU, whatever it might be. I think this is just, at the end of the day, a kid who says, hey, look, I want to take another look around. And it's fun to be recruited. I went 15 months without even being able to visit a campus, and I committed to a school during that stretch, kind of right on the back end. So he knows going into his senior year, this is sort of his last chance to experience that. And he's a 5-star. He's going to have coaches calling him, whether he's committed or not. So it's not a massive surprise to me. I'm not pressing any panic button.
From one side of the spectrum to the other, LSU picks up a commitment from a must-have 4-star offensive lineman, Emery Jones, who's got some sweet feet as an interior O-lineman over at Catholic High. What do the Tigers pick up in Jones's commitment?
Yeah, I've said it, and we've talked about him on your show for a long time. He's one of my favorite players that will be in their class, whether that's the current commitments or these guys in state that they're still after. I think we're going to look back and say, oh, damn, that was a kid who started 2 or 3 years for LSU and became a top 3-round draft pick and was everything you wanted out of an O-lineman. And he plays, you mentioned sweet feet. He plays some left tackle. He plays left tackle for Catholic. And you were the one who put me on the basketball film. I mean, this kid's he's coming off pick and rolls. He's hitting spin moves. I mean, at 340. So imagine what he's going to be doing when he's even lightened up a little bit more. And you would never know he carries 340 either, which makes it even less of a worry for me in terms of where his weight's at as a high school guy. I love him. I can't enough. Everyone I talk to, I mean, you talk to people at Catholic. He's a 4.0 student. He never misses a workout. He never does anything wrong. I spent time with him this past weekend at his house, and look, he's the guy who lost his father at a young age and has really stepped up and been the man of the house. And his mom is now getting to see him kind of have this moment, which is really special for her, I know. But to then be at home and have his family there and friends and old teammates all be able to watch him, I think this is the kind of guy you want at LSU. Yeah. Great kid, and he's really, really good at football. So I thought that you can't overlook. It sucks, right, that LSU fans were already bummed out that Jacoby decommitted, and then when Emery commits, you're not celebrating probably as a recruiting fan as much as you would have liked to. But you'll look back on that weekend, trust me, and say, damn, I'm glad we got that guy, because I think he'll be one of their best O-linemen for a few years to come.
Seems like Boys from the Boot was a success. I love the tidbits, and in my opinion, if you are not a member over at Go247, you should be for the tidbits alone and they give you much more than that as a service. But get over to Go247 and pick up a membership heading into football season. You can read the latest of the VIP tidbits from Boys from the Boot. What were some of the takeaways?
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think the biggest look is Boys from the Boot. So you want Louisiana guys there, right? And they had all Walker and Will and Emery and Trevante Citizen, their running back commit, all their big commits. All their commits were in, really. So then you look around the state and say, okay, well, who are our other top targets? And people are so quick always, and I get it. It's recruiting that to focus on who didn't show up. And look, Kendrick Law was on family vacation, so he doesn't count. But Shaz Preston at St. James was at Bama. His mom hadn't gotten a chance to see it yet. It's right before the dead period, so they went up there. And then we saw Matthews and Le'Veon Moss, who's committed to Alabama, actually, out of Baton Rouge as a running back. He was at A&M as well. And people say, oh, man, they didn't get everyone. Look, you're not always going to get everyone on campus. And just because they didn't come to campus this weekend doesn't mean they're not trending to LSU or may wind up at LSU or whatever it might be. But let's focus on who they did get that's not committed. And it was the two guys that I think had they not shown up, everyone would have really freaked out. And that's Quincy Wiggins at Madison Prep, and Jamon Tapp at Ascension Catholic, two defensive linemen. And look, and I'm not knocking Shaz Preston or Le'Veon Moss or Jacoby Matthews, any of these guys. They're obviously really good players. But they're receivers and running backs and safeties, which is the state of Louisiana, and LSU recruits well. They're not always putting out in the state of Louisiana a 5-star DN, two top 100 DNs, whatever Tapp and Wiggins are. You want those guys around as much as possible. So to have them both there with their families was big, because we still don't know really which way both those guys are truly leaning. We kind of have a feel with the rest of these guys. I think with Wiggins, LSU and Bama have been really heavily involved. With Tapp, the same two schools, and there's others, but he keeps things even more close to the vest than Wiggins does. He just doesn't say a ton. These guys, I guess, let their talking happen on the field. But, boy, to have them both in, and I heard that both guys had a good weekend. They got to spend time around the commits. They got to spend more time with not just Coach O, but Andre Carter and Durante Jones and this defensive staff. And that'll go a long way, right? I mean, you're going into a dead period now, so you're the last team to see them. I thought that was big. And then without going into every little detail, but beyond Arch Manning, there was only one or two 2023 guys in Louisiana that they've offered that weren't there. And there were no expectations that Arch would be there. He wrapped up all his summer visits already, but everybody else was there. So you're getting a really nice head start on 2023, right? Like Shelton Sampson out at Catholic. He wasn't at Bama or A&M this weekend. He was at LSU. And you can sort of go down the list of guys they've offered, and they were all there. So now you've got an ability to, right, Jordy, that those guys for next year already have a little bond. They play 7-on-7s together. Some of them play each other on Friday nights, but they know who each other are because they pay attention. Who else has an offer at LSU? Okay, I know who that is. Yeah, he plays over at, wherever, St. James. But now when you're all around each other and your families are around each other and you're kind of getting to spend time with the older guys, the commits and guys who are being targeted out of this class are about to be seniors. Mind you, these 2023 kids are all about to be juniors. Then you really start to say, okay, man, I could see myself here or whatever it might be. They don't have a commit yet. I won't be surprised now across the next month or two if they start pushing and popping 2023 guys now that they've been able to have them in camp, have them back their boys from the boot, put the offers out there and really get a gauge of who they really like early on here in this 2023 class.
Not to get nitpicky, I'm looking at the class of 2022 rankings. We kind of fell back after Jacoby Matthews decommitment. I just want to know, in the world of hypotheticals, say Quinn Ewers goes and leaves early, and then you have say if Jacoby Matthews comes back, where would that bring us back in the recruiting rankings? Would that bring us 2, 3, or 2? I see Penn State's ranked at 2. They have a single 5 stars. Just wondering, what's the cap on this LSU class of 2022 class?
I think that I don't know if they'll end up 1 because Ohio State has a really good class, but Bama will have a really good class. LSU, I think those are going to be your top 3.
Per usual.
I really do because, right, and Georgia will be in there. But I think that when you look at like a team like Penn State, they just have a ton of commits right now. So they're able to put themselves up in that top 3 range. And obviously, I think LSU is 3. They slid back to 5 with Jacoby decommitting, and then they inched right back up on the heels of Bama. I think it might be Notre Dame.
It's Notre Dame.
They're only separated by like 2 points or something, which isn't much. Like if they got a commit today, they would jump them. So one more commit, you're back into a top 3 range class. Right now, you're firmly top 5. And there's so many names out there, right? I mean, look, Jacoby, but then everybody else, Law, Shaz Preston, Wiggins, Tapp, Moss, all these different guys, Osbury that we've talked about and that they've been recruiting and offered. Those guys are highly ranked guys, so they'll continue to push you up quickly. I think this is a top 3 class by the end of it. Now, whether that means 2 or somehow pulling off number 1 would mean really finishing strong, and you would need to pop some notable out-of-state guys. We'll see where it goes, but I've always said it, and it's always true. If you're in the top 5, you've got a great class, and as long as you've addressed your needs, there's usually no complaints. That'll be the case for LSU this year, but I do think I'm picking them to settle right in around 3.
What has Ryan Day been doing at Ohio State to create such a well-oiled machine on the recruiting trail?
Not being in the SEC, I guess, huh? Just cleaning up the Midwest, and it helps too that Michigan's not good. Penn State got a good class, but they aren't what They started out like 0-5 last year. So I think it's been helpful for them that they've been the cream of the crop. They go to the playoffs every year. And it's in a lot of the same way Clemson, right? Florida State's not good. A lot of these teams aren't good. So you are the only show in town for the ACC. And I think Ohio State and Clemson know that, and they recruit well. They've got good recruiters on staff. And they're just sort of stay in their lane. They kind of find guys that want to play for their school and stick to it. So it's a unique approach, right? It's different than what LSU and Bama and Georgia and those schools are up against. But they seem to continue to put together good classes, and certainly Ohio State always has guys drafted, not at the same clip as LSU and Bama, but close.
Taylor Castan has a question for Shea. And Shea, I wanted to ask you this on name, image, and likeness. Have you started to hear from some of these recruits? And his question is a question for Shea. What's going to be the NIL deal price to sign a 5-star recruit going forward in the SEC? Are you hearing more name, image, and likeness discussion on the recruiting trail now that we've been in it for over a month?
Look, I think, and I've talked to parents about this. I've talked to kids, and I'm just talking to LSU ones, but more than anything right now, Jordy, and it's almost a lot like college coaches, at least a lot of them, is that they're saying, look, all that's interesting and everything, but are you going to take care of my baby? Who's the position coach? What's his relationship like with the head coach? What's the educational, plan for him? All these different things. How does he fit? Does he like it there? How are y'all going to use him? What's your depth chart look like? These are things that have existed. They're as old as time in terms of sending your kid off to college and playing college sports. And NIL, even as big a news as it is, and it'll change sort of the industry and the recruiting game certainly forever. But I don't think it's some seismic shift overnight. Like NIL didn't jump to number one on kids' list. And that's what O said. I mean, look, you can have NIL deals at LSU, Bama. O didn't say this. I am Bama, Georgia, all that. They're all going to look similar. If you're one of the best players, then you're going to get a big deal. All of those schools have money or boosters or whatever is going to end up making getting you a big NIL deal if you're in that position. But as O said, before any of that, that doesn't need to be your main focus. It needs to be finding a school that you feel comfortable with, not wanting to transfer out after a year, all of these different things. And then from talking to parents, they feel the same way. It's, look, I've got a lot more questions that need answers, and then I would feel comfortable about him committing. And none of them include NIL. It's everything else that you do when you're a recruit and you're sending your kid off to college. So I think fans will sit around and think it's as simple as A&M's got a lot of money and they're going to offer, recruits this, that, and the other, and that's going to get them number one classes. If that were the case, then A&M would just have number one classes already. They didn't need NIL deals to make that happen. They could have, I'm just using one team and one example. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. But point being, I don't think any of this shifts up where these kids are going so drastically that all of a sudden we're going to see X, Y, and Z schools be the best at recruiting everybody. And no longer these five that have been sort of the cornerstone of the top of their rankings, which is Bama, LSU, Georgia, Ohio State, Clemson, all of those programs. So I'm not, it will matter, and we'll see more as rules get more defined and how much more kids kind of know about things before they go to a college campus. But for me right now, that's like further down the list of things that matter to these kids.
What do you make of the Quinn Ewers story, the number one quarterback out of Texas who was committed to Ohio State, who's got a decision to make on whether or not he's going to play his senior year, he's going to accept these NIL deals and graduate early and head up to Columbus?
I think it's an interesting thing. I'm curious as to how that really plays out. That's the kind of thing I think happens very rarely. I think that will be, and if it all goes through, the type of thing that you say, that will be bad for the sport, right? If it continues to happen, and maybe not. Maybe you're just on the side of the player and say kids should be able to do whatever they want. I agree. But I don't think we're going down some slippery slope where now everyone's going to be backing out of something. That guys like him are so few and far between. The Derek Stingley's, where you're really so good and you're so confident in it that you can pull off these moves. And even then, some kids won't do it. They'll say, I'm just still going to school. I'm doing things normally. And that's how I think things will play out. That fits right into the boat with all these NIL deals and everybody thinking that every official visit or weekend visit for a recruit now is about just sitting around and plotting what NIL deals we can get you. I just don't think it's as big of a deal right now as everybody is making it out to be. It's a huge deal. It's not some deciding factor for all these kids every time they turn around and talk to somebody on the phone.
Shea Dixon, go 247. He is our recruiting expert, and make him yours if you're not already a member over at Go 247. We told you the VIP tidbits alone from Boys from the Boot should get you in, as it is just piece of info after piece of info on the weekend and everything that's going on for LSU's recruiting class. You just got a taste of it there, and we appreciate that very much. Enjoy the week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. There's Shea Dixon checking in this morning. The conversation is brought to you by Go Flow IV and Spa, which is located on Jefferson Highway. That's 7970 Jefferson Highway, right across the street, actually, from A-Bear's Specialty Meat. So if you know where A-Bear's is located on Jefferson, in that shopping center across from A-Bear's, is Go Flow IV and Spa. Go
boosting the economy, man.
Yes, man. Go get memberships. They have 3-month, 6-month annual memberships available over at GoFlow. They're also on social media. They're all over Instagram. They're all over Facebook. You can find them there. Just search them. GoFlow IV Spa. As if you're looking to rehydrate, if you're looking just for the health IV, that is vitamin B with wellness and overall health complexes, get in and check them out over at GoFlow IV and Spa, your hydration and wellness partner. You can contact them online at goflowivspa.com or on social media.
You must be a cheat code with your boxing classes. You got GoFlow IV whenever you need. Do you get tired?
Let me tell you, the sleep and the energy is incredible that you get from GoFlow IV Spa. That is where I have seen the biggest advantage of using their service over at GoFlow. I've been twice, and each time I have felt a direct effect on my sleep and my energy. I usually hit the wall at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. When you wake up, wake up daily at 4 a.m. naturally too. I mean, I don't know if it would take me a while to switch my body clock into teaching it a habit to sleep later. How long have you been doing the
4 a.m.? 15?
I mean, 12 to 15 years for sure. I mean, consistently. I mean, I wake up in the weekend at 4 a.m.
You're like a farmer.
Almost, yes. But at 3 o'clock, I smash the wall. Like I can sit, I can almost fall asleep sitting in my driver's seat, like at a stoplight. But this I've recognized from GoFlow in just my 2 stops in my 2 appointments that my sleep has improved and my overall energy throughout the day is undeniable. So go check them out and find out how you can become a member or how you can just sign up for the basics in which they offer over at GoFlow IV and Spa. We'll be back and close it out here on the Jordy Culotta Show here on this Monday, as we'll get you set up for some of the stories to watch here in what seems like a dead sports time, but it's kind of the calm before the storm.
The eye of the hurricane.
As NFL training camps are up and moving. Fall camp will begin for LSU football here shortly, and a lot of the storylines around the sports world will start snowballing down to Saturdays and Sundays of just full of football. We'll talk about a little bit about that next to get you set up for this Monday when we return here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Welcome back here to this Monday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show. Remember, all of our sound is podcasted for you over at RMB Builders. They are compliments of RMB Builders. Shout out to Rhett and his crew for giving you our sound back as our podcast is presented by the crew over at RMB. Custom-made homes. They can help you out with if you need a handyman around the house, or if you want to custom design a home, or if you just need a total refurbishment and remodel, let them help you out. I needed some help after the flood, and Rhett and the crew were fantastic. RMB-builders.com is how you can find them online. We were talking a little bit about going down memory lane. LSU football is obviously reporting on Thursday, and they are 33 days out from kicking this thing off versus UCLA in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. Whether or not it happens as it's scheduled is still yet to be determined. But as we sit here and talk on this August 2nd, this game is still a go in the way in the way that it is scheduled. It is the way that it is scheduled right now, with LSU traveling out to Los Angeles to take on UCLA at the Rose Bowl. And we were talking about some of the events or some of the standouts.
33 days, and it was a quarterback. Who was 33? It was a 33-yard pass.
No, it was a 34-yard. So this is yesterday. So yesterday, over at One Team One Podcast, they're counting down the days to LSU's kickoff for the season with, like yesterday was 34 days until kickoff, and they highlighted the 34-yard pass that Matt Monk threw to Skylar Green in 2003, where LSU faced Georgia in Tiger Stadium. And still, to me, to this day, is the greatest day game experience that I've ever had at LSU. And really and truly, I'm sitting here racking my brain, and I'm sure that there is one, but I can't think of one that would even rival it. Like one that would even be close to the atmosphere and the reaction of winning that game that day. Still to this day, my most favorite picture ever captured at an LSU football game that was actually on the inside cover. It wasn't the cover of Sports Illustrated, but it was on the inside cover when you opened up SI back in the day.
First photo.
It was that first photo that took up both pages, and it was titled Sky High. And I think, look at it, there it is. God, go ahead,
look
Noah.
At that.
Great job, Noah. And you see my guy Tiny, the cameraman from WAFB, standing up with his red shirt on there.
Can't miss him.
The cop. I mean, everybody that was reacting in that picture to that win would be what was incredible. But that day, that game for LSU football, to me, you can always pinpoint and go back as a mile marker of LSU's dominant run over the last 20 years, right? Everybody kind of wants to pencil in the golden age of LSU football beginning in or around 2001. I think you can honestly say probably the Tennessee game in 2000 when Nick Saban and LeBrandon Toefield and Rohan Davey and Robert Royal and Corey Webster and that crew won and beat Tennessee. That was kind of the launch point for LSU football becoming dominant. After that, they go on and they beat Georgia Tech in the Peach Bowl. The next year in 2001, they win the SEC title versus Tennessee. The next season, Arkansas beats them on a Hail Mary, or they're back in the SEC championship game, to 2003, where they ultimately win the league again and then go on to win the national championship. And a mile marker of that season to me is that October tilt when Georgia marked Richt and the Bulldogs came to Baton Rouge, where LSU was an underdog. Georgia was loaded. Georgia had David Pollock on defense. Oof. Their quarterback was the lefty. I can't think of his name right now. It'll come to me. He played in the league for a little bit. He was no good in the NFL, but a lefty. That was a really good SEC quarterback. And LSU just...
David Green?
David Green was his name. It's exactly right.
Terrible numbers.
David Green was his name.
Jesus.
And Green was so... he was so beaten, battered that day that they put DJ Shockley into the game deep, like buried in the south end zone, like kind of like on his own 15, 12-yard line. And I've never heard that place so loud. DJ Shockley is running away from Kirsten Pittman, and he doesn't know whether or not the whistle has blown because the place is so loud.
Vern, you can barely hear Vern on the call.
And Shockley gets his head shoved down into the Tiger Stadium turf, and that place is going crazy, bonkers. I mean, it was the first game that I had ever sat in a suite, because that was the year that the suites were opened up. And my buddy Russ Carpenter and I, old Rusty, we're partying our ass off all Friday night, all throughout Saturday morning, getting to the game at 2:30. And, that was up in the suites, you can drink. They had liquor flowing.
Got carbs to fill you up.
And when they won that game at the end, because LSU had to come up with a stop even after the touchdown pass to Shockley, the touchdown pass to Green, we sprinted down the ramps from the suites down back to our tailgate into what was mayhem, a sea of LSU chaos. Because for as much people believed that LSU was going to win the game going into the matchup just because of the confidence that Saban had the fan base dealing with at that time, nobody really could envision of what would happen when it went down, like when they won the game. And it was mayhem. It was as if LSU had arrived on the national scene. It was the first big win of CBS on CBS for LSU. Game day was across the street on the ramps of the Maravich Center. And that's when Saban is sitting there with Lee Corso and Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit and that crew. And you can see them almost blessing and baptizing the LSU football program as a big-time player in the sport right then. And when LSU, after they won that game in 2003, obviously they lost to Florida. Again, they lost to Florida in that season, which was their only loss. But they played that Georgia team again in the SEC championship game. And that Saturday that they played in October, Georgia was favored. LSU was not supposed to win the game. And then they met up a month and a half later in Atlanta, and LSU beat them by three touchdowns. LSU had become and gotten so good week in, week out during that season. They had a setback versus Florida in Baton Rouge, obviously. But they had gotten so much better every week. By the time they had seen and saw that Georgia team again, they beat the brakes off of them. They beat the hell out of that Georgia team in Atlanta. It was never close. It was never close in the title game. And that was a game, just a month and a half earlier that it came down to the last possession for LSU. But it is, in my opinion, it is the best day game that I have ever attended at LSU.
Any other contenders?
And it is a top 3 experience all time. I'm telling you, it is a top 3 experience all time in that stadium for me of just the feeling in the. I'll never forget when I remember it was Tyson Browning caught a 95-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter to take the lead. LSU was like holding on for dear life in the fourth quarter. I mean, just trying to get to the finish line. And somebody cracks back on LaRon Landry and leaves the sideline wide open on just a simple little flare screen out to Tyson Browning. And that cat goes untouched, 95 yards. And as soon as he crosses the line, there were 85,000 people chanting LSU. It didn't matter.
Everywhere.
They're not getting beat. Yeah, LSU was not getting beat that day. And that moment alone, when Browning scores and Georgia takes the lead and the crowd immediately goes into the LSU chants, I got goosebumps talking about it, and being in that stadium and like looking around thinking something dramatic's about to happen.
Right.
Something dramatic is about to happen. And they kicked it off after that, after the Browning touchdown. They kick it off to Devery Henderson, and Henderson almost houses it. He makes two guys miss and hits the sideline. And really, if he doesn't cut back into the middle of the field, he may go the distance. And he gets tackled at around midfield. And I'll never forget this either. You can look this up. On that drive coming up after Devery Henderson's kickoff, Dwayne Bowe makes his first catch as an LSU wide receiver. Dwayne Bowe was one of those guys that came in that class, that freshman class, that was just star-studded. That was Jamarcus Russell and Matt Flynn and Dwayne Bowe and LaRon Landry and all those guys that come in that class. And Dwayne Bowe, Debo, catches a 15-yard crosser, and he gets ping-ponged. He gets pelted, popped back and forth and knocked to the ground, and he's holding on to the ball for dear life. He's holding on to it like this. And then I want to say a play or two later from the 34-yard line. And Dwayne Bowe was number 81 at the time. He wasn't 80. And then probably 2 plays later, Malk hit Skylar Green rolling to his left. And LSU was, we're still living it. We're still living in the golden age of LSU football. And I think a mile marker from that experience is that day.
That panel when he scores and you just look up and you see the sea of people.
Drinks coming down.
Whoa.
People just...
The beast has awoken.
It was incredible, bro.
In that picture, I don't think there's a person in the stands that's hands aren't
in the cop.
Straight up.
The facial expressions. People, oh, shit. It was one of the loudest I've ever heard the stadium, and it's one of the best experiences I've ever had watching LSU play.
What's your best night game?
Probably Florida 07 was, that fourth quarter alone was so just dramatic. It was just it was like a fight. It was almost like a boxing match. Was a fantastic experience for sure. I always thought that the LSU Virginia Tech game earlier that year, just as far as build up and LSU playing so well. It was LSU would have beat any team in the country that night by 3 touchdowns. It didn't matter who you would have put on the field that night. That's one of the best I've ever seen LSU play, was that night versus Virginia Tech in the stadium for at least the first half when the game was still kind of in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was rocking. It was on springs. There's a lot more night experiences that if you sit down and think about that would stand out. If you ask me day experience, I don't even have to think twice. Yeah. It's a Georgia game, and it ain't even close.
One of my favorite memories was that game against Arkansas. Mettenberger gets hurt. Jennings comes in.
Yeah, it's Arkansas.
Down 27-24 with a minute 20, and Jennings
throws
that
Doral.
50-yard bomb to Doral.
Yeah.
I was there. I was in 5th grade.
That's
and
they have a great picture of Hunt Palmer on Trayvon Doral catching the ball. Trayvon Doral's catching the ball on the sideline. And you can tell Hunt's giving oh shit, they're gonna win the game, they're gonna win this game.
Yeah, you're just in the stands and you see Doral beat him, and you're
he's running by himself.
You're oh my god,
he's wide open.
We're gonna win.
Yeah, right. That was a Les Miles special.
Yeah,
Les Miles special.
2017 Auburn when they came back. That was a crazy game.
2017, yes,
yeah.
It was absolutely bananas.
really, you can almost look at that game as a life jacket of Ed Ogeron's LSU career.
Yeah.
It was bad.
I mean, if he loses that game,
oh yeah, he's
in trouble.
He's probably gone.
He's in big trouble.
Yeah.
And they had to rally from 20 at halftime to win the game. I mean, the game was hanging in the balance for a minute.
Because they lost to Troy previously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the Troy year.
That was the Troy year.
Because they're 4-2 at the time. Yep, 4-2 at the time.
But yeah, that was a good game, man. That was one that was a good experience. We had that was during the time where we had to leave. I had to leave the games at halftime because we had the post game show. So we weren't able to stay. The Burrow Florida game. 19 was a fantastic. That was kind of a retro feel of Tiger Stadium where nobody left. It was still loud in the fourth quarter.
When Florida was in the red zone.
Yes,
that final
when Stingley picked it.
It was just erupted. It was probably the loudest I've ever heard it in a home game I've been at. Because it was just deafening.
And the Burrow to Chase touchdown, place popped.
Whole student section.
You chomped them out.
And then the A&M Burrow to Chase touchdown.
Yes.
At the final game. Because we just wanted to punch
A&M
in the
first
face.
Yeah, right. The Alabama game that Scott Van Pelt always references in 2012 was electric. Was one of those nights when you walked into the stadium, it felt different.
Felt like a kid.
It felt very, it felt like retro Tiger Stadium where, you couldn't put another person in there. And, LSU had the lead late in that game, and there was frantic just chaos in the stands of, is LSU going to win this game? Are they going to hang on and win this thing? Right. So it was, there's so many great experiences, but the Georgia LSU 03 game will always have create a feeling for me of just one of the great experiences in Tiger Stadium, and that was a 34-yard touchdown from Matt Monk to Skylar Green, which was highlighted yesterday with 34 days until kickoff between LSU and UCLA. So I appreciate everybody for interacting with us here on this Monday. Thank you for being out there. Great job by Noah filling in for the production work behind the scenes on Lloyd. Lloyd and Katie out on vacation. Hopefully they enjoy their time. They'll be back with us next week. So for everybody over here involved, for Jordy, for Jack, for Noah, I'm Jordy Culotta. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.